My name is Fayaz Ahmad Dar, and I grew up in a rural village in Kashmir in this district, Ganegal, so, and in a peasantry background. And then my schooling and educational and work sort of journey took me outside of Kashmir. I spent um, about 17 years outside of Kashmir working, getting education and traveling here and there. So I am a first generation schooler. My father did not go to school, and the discourse when I was being sent to school was about, education, progress, development is coming, and now things are going to get better and everything is going to be, you know, great. But I was uncomfortable with the way, number one, how people were treated. I felt like people were still not treated right, although there was this new discourse about development, progress, and education, but people were still not treated uh, well. And on the other hand, we went to school, we started sort of learning what we were taught, and but we also saw, for example, there was a little stream going through our village, and we used to use that water for drinking, for irrigating the fields, for washing, for household use. We would fish in it, you know, and the water used to flow year round. And but within a few years, that stream turned into literally a drain. You don't feel like looking at it now. So there was this disconnect between what was being said and what was being promised and what was happening. So actually things were not, getting better. We were actually things were in many ways getting worse. So I had that discomfort, but I did not understand what was happening. So I went with the flow with schooling, and then went outside of Kashmir for education, and then I saw other contexts and other places. After spending, about, as I said, about 15, 17 years outside of Kashmir, I started realizing certain things about how our uh, upbringing in Kashmir, our the socialization in Kashmir, and also the educational methodology, how it conditions us, and why do we make the choices we make, and why, despite having a strong sentiment and strong desire to change things, to improve things, why do most people end up sacrificing their dreams for their for livelihood security, for example? And human beings are the best creation of nature. So we are Ashraful Makhluqat. So we are supposed to take on challenges. We are supposed to solve problems. We are supposed to improve things. So, but that was not happening. People were not able to be who they are supposed to be. So anyway, after realizing some of these things, I sort of also realized that my place was in Kashmir. So I decided to come back to Kashmir and work with younger people here and share some of these insights with them. And that's how my journey after coming back started. And I started a non-profit initiative called Mool Sustainability Research and Training Center, through which we worked with young people using participatory methods to understand their aspirations and what were the actual hurdles in their way that were preventing them from realizing their dreams or, working on their true desires. So through that process, we went around Kashmir, Jammu and Ladakh, and so some of the key realizations from that engagement were, one, the question of livelihood was the primary question for young people, unfortunately. And as I said earlier, despite having this desire to, change things, improve things, contribute to their community, they were unable to do that because the question of livelihood security sort of took precedence over everything else. And also the non-profit paradigm has many limitations. So it cannot really do a broad-based experimentation, and it cannot really solve the question of livelihood for masses. It can help build capacity, but it cannot really solve that question. So that's how we realized probably entrepreneurship is a way out. And so that's how Sagg Eco Village was born. As you know, Sagg is a Kashmiri word for watering or nurturing. And so Sagg Eco Village uh, is a sort of, our mission is to build integrative and regenerative lifestyles. But basically, what we tried to do is to build a business that helps us integrate our social and our personal and financial goals in a way that creates a business which improves the quality of life and quality of ecology. So in a way, quality of life for all stakeholders, be it nature, culture, or human beings that are participating in it. So in common language, culture can be described as the cumulative experience of all the people. For example, in case of Kashmir, all the people who have ever lived in Kashmir, their experience put together. So that is present day Kashmiri culture. So from people experimented with different things, tried different ways and practices, and then selected what worked and passed that knowledge on to the next generation. And that's what the culture is in simple ways. So whether it is the farming practices or the food we eat or the way we preserve food or process food or cook food or the way we live together, maintain relationships or share resources, or whether what we wear and the buildings we build or other things that we do. So in that respect, number one, we have been blessed with a bounty by nature, and then we have a cultural sort of resource that is unmatched. And then the technology that is available today is the best ever technology that there is. It is improving every day. So what we are accessing today is the best ever technology. And so, but despite that, most people are unfortunately struggling and suffering or being exploited because the fourth pillar of this model, the human beings, are distracted, are unable to be themselves. So our model, as I said, is based on integration of natural, cultural, human, and technological resources. So, and the way we bring in culture or the way we approach culture is a living system. So our ancestors passed on their experience to us, and it's a living system because we are adding our experience to it. We are interacting with the world today and we are learning new things. New things are being invented or discovered every day, and we are testing, trying them, and then we are adapting some of those. Most of our present day practices, unfortunately, the development practices especially, are based on imported models of development. So we are unable to, again, culture is a living thing. It needs to interact with the present times, and we need to adapt whatever new knowledge, whatever new inventions or discoveries are coming in. But it has to be integrated with what our ancestors have passed on to us. It should not replace or be pasted over our culture. So that is the challenge of the present times. So with Sagg Eco Village, what we're trying to do is we're trying to integrate our ancestral heritage with the modern way of living or modern knowledge or modern discoveries. So, and culture, when you say cultural preservation, I somehow feel like it's a misleading term, because you don't need to preserve culture. You need to understand culture as a living phenomenon and then integrate it in your life. For example, if you, whatever you want to preserve, you have to bring it into your practice. So, for example, these wicker chairs that we are using. So, it's easier to get plastic chairs or other kinds of chairs, and but we are using wicker chairs because that's how you preserve culture, or that's how you enhance culture or care for culture. Because number one, what using it means, it includes it in the economic cycle, and that's what makes the difference. When any cultural practice is connected to the economic cycle, then it has a life of its own, because the people who are making it have an incentive to continue making these chairs, and caring for the wetlands where the wicker grows, and grow more wicker, make more chairs, and then so using culture into your daily life, bringing it in, and it's not like I am doing a favor, because this is more healthy, not for me right now, but also for our future generations. Because the more we import, the more dependent we become, and the less we care about our environment and our culture. So, and we pass on an unhealthy environment and unhealthy place to our future generations. So, there are certain elements of culture that are improved. For example, some years back, some tools were used, but today those tools have been improved upon and new tools are being used. So that way things can be improved upon and replaced. So, and you can create a museum to have the old tools in a museum, so that you have a record, or what you used in the past. But that's what museums are for. Museums are not for museums cannot preserve culture. Museums in other ways are I sometimes call them graves, because you think you have put something in there and you have preserved the culture, but that's not how it is preserved. You can save some artifacts, you can save some things that have been replaced or improved upon. But if you want to preserve culture, you have to practice it, you have to connect it to the economic cycle. That's the only way to preserve culture. So that's what Sagg Eco Village is trying to do. Be it in the farming practices, we practice natural farming, we have our own composting programs. The things that we use here, for example, the matting, we use the wagyu, sitting, we use chairs, and anything, most of the things that we use here are locally made and sourced. And then the other things, for example, the buildings we have built, the dwellings where people stay, are mud huts. Again, using the resource that was available here, the rocks, most of them. So they are built, we have these wide 2 feet rock walls, and then mud plastered. So that's again coming from our cultural practices. So those buildings, what they do is, again, we are not doing it as a favor to anybody or anything. It is good for us, and it is going to help us pass on a better place to our future generations. If you live in a mud hut, you see, a human being is a natural being. And when you are in a natural environment, you naturally vibrate at that frequency. You reconnect with the frequency of nature, and it helps you de-stress and heal and rejuvenate naturally. So because we are these days, most of us are unfortunately living in artificial environments, and we're unable to be in our natural state. So when you come into a natural setting, you live in a natural setting. So you automatically start reconnecting with nature and vibrating at a natural pace and healing and feeling better. What is most important is to have an open mind. I mean, obviously, you want to build everything and center everything around culture because that's what you uh, care for, and that's what is under attack, sort of, in the modern paradigm. But you want to have an open mind so that anything new that is useful, that's coming in, or that is discovered or invented, or you learn, or other people are practicing, and then you can use that new knowledge or new learning or new experience, and you can bring it to uh, your place as well, and you can bring it to your own experience, or you can use it, but again in a way that it integrates with your own place and your own culture. It should not, you should not, I mean, as we were talking about earlier, I mean, things should not be replaced without uh, you know the proper research or analysis or understanding of how that impacts us now and also in the future. Number one, everything that is done here or has been done here, because this was a barren piece of land, we only had rocks and thorns here. And so all this infrastructure that has been created, removing all the thorns and breaking the rocks and building these huts and planting trees and turning this into a farm, all that work has been done by the locals. So we have thankfully, I mean, I think this is the biggest contribution. This has been a very labor intensive work, and be it the masons, be it the carpenters, be it any other experts, the farmers, all the work has been done by the locals. So that's one, the employment generation element of it. Our whole team is local. We have right now about 10 people working here, and all of them are local. And then we have been engaging with the local community in many other ways as well. Number one, as I said, we source a lot of our things that are needed here. For example, milk, vegetables, fruits. We grow some of our own, but it's not always enough. So we have to buy other things from outside. So they are sourced from the locals. So then we also have an active sort of a community engagement program. Early on, this was open for locals for free anytime and every time. But then we had to regulate that, and now Fridays we have a special program for the local kids and women. They have a free entry; they can enjoy the place, the public areas, on Friday afternoon. And we have also been able to organize several training programs for the locals. We have conducted a nature guides training. We have been able to generate resources for a livelihood, sort of small scale sustainable livelihoods program for a group of local women. And we often have programs and engagement with the local community, especially young people, through our non-profit sort of activities. So number one, I would say economically, and number two, then the capacity building and as I said, I mean, we're trying to use the local resources. For example, these wicker chairs. So we have developed a relationship with the chair makers. They often come here. We also help them sell these. So we use them. We buy from them. We also help them. We resell. So we also help them sell these. And then there are these mats, the Wagu grass mats. So We have also developed a relationship with them over the years. We buy from them and we also then resell them. So we help them find a market. And for the local artisans, we also have several other products that we are trying to sell here. We have a little shop that we have put in place inside the village. And we are also now thinking of scaling these things up so that we can reach out to other sort of markets. And so we have several handcraft and food products that we source from the local artisans and that we sell here. We use and then we also sell. So anything you see here, whether it is the chair or it is the wagyu or it is a building, the mud hut or any other, the baskets, the grass mats or the wicker lampshades or things like that, all of those are available for people to buy. So we can help source them and we help the artisans to reach new markets and customers. Well, significance, of course, as I was saying earlier, number one, if you connect anything, if you want to preserve anything, you have to connect it to the economic cycle. So, for example, if you use the wicker chair, then there's an incentive for the artisan, for the farmer to grow wicker and the artisan to make the wicker chair, and he is able to earn a living. And that way, if you are able to give them a bigger market or add to their number of customers, then they have more incentive to invest in it. What happens is then that reduces our dependence. If you make 4 chairs, that means 4 less plastic chairs. That means 4 less imported chairs. That means less transportation pollution. And that means increased revenue for local artisans, for their skill, for their hand, and that means more incentive to grow wicker. So it's a holistic cycle that on the one hand helps you grow more trees or plants and gives employment to the local, sort of empowers them because they already have the skill, and it also helps you minimize or lessen your dependence on imports. So the more you bring in these cultural practices into your lifestyle, again, I would emphasize that you start using them. It's not enough to put this wicker chair in a museum. I mean, that is not going to save or preserve culture. The farming that we do is natural, cultural, and then the way we serve food, for example, or cook food, prepare food, or preserve food, we again use cultural, traditional practices or recipes which are not only healthy but also very delicious. उनमें काफ़ी मज़ा आता है और I think for food especially, a lot of people just come here for the food because it is authentic, cultural, and served in a cultural way. The utensils we use again are cultural, which are health friendly as well as aesthetically good. So that, and then the activities that we offer, for example, pottery or farming or the cultural walk or even other things. We have added some modern adventure elements as well to engage young people, because young people have this need for play, and there are many modern ways that we do that. So, for example, the slack line or rope climb or trampoline or seesaw, all those elements are also there.
but there are many other cultural elements that serve as a base. So this is sort of an integrated, a unique integration of natural and cultural ethos. So people witness that, and we want to become an example of a lifestyle or uh, and entrepreneurship that helps you earn a living while contributing to cultural preservation and environmental ecological sustainability. So that's how the whole place is set up and is designed. So through these experiences, the cultural experiences that people get, these are authentic, immersive cultural experiences. So uh, they leave a lasting impression on people. The practices that we have here, for example, the natural farming, the cultural farming we do, the traditional recipes we use, whether in the kitchen to help serve people food, or the way we serve food, again using traditional ways and means, or the traditional cultural recipes that we use to preserve food, or other things that we use, for example, the uh, how we help people be comfortable, or the mats we use, the chairs we use, all of those, the gazebo that we have built, all of these elements sort of leave a lasting impression on people. And the biggest sort of reward or impact, in my understanding, is we have on average about 400 or so visitors every month. And thankfully, most of them leave with a great sense of, you know, uh, happiness and fulfillment, and they are very appreciative. So I think, and so we get really a lot of appreciation and great feedback. So I think that is the biggest takeaway for us. But then we have also gotten a lot of media coverage, both locally as well as internationally. Uh, and we have also been won awards for our work on sustainability. And we are sort of becoming part of many networks. Many people are approaching us locally as well as internationally to contribute our learning to those forums. Even locally, for example, we are contributing to the ecotourism policy uh, with our experience. So those kinds of things are happening. And so we're seeing thankfully we are being recognized for what we have done over the last 10-12 years. It takes time for things to grow. So but we have gotten to a stage where a lot of people are beginning to see the impact and are appreciating the idea. But the core again remains that the people who come here, they feel happy and they feel connected, and they feel it, the place helps them de-stress. That is the core of it. Yeah. We are a relatively very new and young uh, experiment in ecological entrepreneurship, and there's so much that we want to do and should do. And I think one of the biggest things that we want to bring in is this intellectual aspect of our culture, like the poetry or prose and those kinds of things we want to bring in and make them an active part. We do occasionally have those kinds of events, but they are occasional as of now. But we want to have, we have created a library, but we want to make it into an ongoing feature of Sagg Eco Village. We want to add a light and sound show about what Kashmir is, what Kashmir's heritage is, and those kinds of elements. And there's so much more we want to do, and hopefully we'll be able to do that in in a step-by-step way. Well, I think as we touched upon earlier, the way the our socialization or upbringing is unfolding in today's times, we are unfortunately alienated from our own selves and our own environment, and that is the biggest problem in my understanding. And what we want to do is to help people reconnect with themselves by reconnecting with nature and culture. I think culture is a living phenomenon, as I said earlier, and I think if people had this shift in their mindset about looking at their culture and reconnecting with their culture, and uh, had developed this confidence in their culture, because culture, as I said earlier, is sort of, in the common language, the repository of the cumulative experience of all the Kashmiris who have ever lived. So we should not replace those practices without analyzing uh, properly the impact of their replacement, not just on ourselves, but on our future generations as well. So my message to people, or especially younger people, is what I alluded to earlier also, that we have nothing to fear. We are created as the best creation uh, of nature. Again, this also comes from our cultural understanding of who we are, you know. So this understanding has been distorted by the way people are brought up, or the way our socialization happens. So if we can reconnect with our cultural roots and with ourselves as who we are, we reflect on who we are, where we are, and what we are supposed to do, then that reflection will pave a way for us to live happier and fulfilling and more contributing lives. Yeah, thank you.